Hello, my name is Sherell Jefferson. I'm the wealth advisor here at Regions Bank. I work with high net worth clients that have at least $1 million or more in liquid assets. Today, I'll be speaking to you in your class regarding energizing yourself financially. This topic is near and dear to my heart, and I'll be sharing stories of when I was actually in high school and how I was able to leverage and save as a student, just like you. So what I want to first start off by talking about is tracking your spending. When it comes to saving and budgeting and energizing yourself financially, the first thing you want to do is understand where you are today. And a lot of times, we all know students make money and they spend it as fast as they get it. Well, there's several students out there that are actually being very proactive as it relates to tracking their spending. I want to give you some examples as it relates to tracking your spending. What does that really mean? Well, the main thing is you want to ensure that whatever you bring in, you're spending less than that to ensure that you have a positive cash flow. If you spend more than you bring in, you actually are targeting for a negative cash flow experience. So before you can track your spending, you want to understand your income. A lot of you all are having, or a lot of you all have side jobs. Maybe you work at McDonald's or doing chores around the house or mowing grass. The main thing is understanding what that income is and is it consistent. Prior to setting a budget, you want to be able to properly add all of the income that comes in on a regular basis. This is really important for two reasons. Number one, it helps you understand what you can spend throughout the month, but then also you want to ensure that you aren't missing any forms of income for you. You know, I would like to share stories. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and she's constantly bugging me about ways to make money, which I'm actually impressed, because a lot of students, they want, a handout, and you have students that are wanting to work really hard to earn money. So my daughter's 12 years old, and she'll say, "Mother, I want to save for a specific goal. Is there a way I can make more money?" Believe it or not, my 12-year-old has encouraged me to somewhat fire my lawn guy and have him come in maybe once a month versus weekly, because she wants to actually mow the grass to earn the income. I understand that all students aren't that way. However, she has a pretty sizable goal that she wants to meet by the end of the year. So for example, understanding your income is very important, and you want to ensure that once you get a great understanding as it relates to your income, and make sure that you're also negotiating, right? Negotiating the price and the cost that it will take for you to do the job. I look forward to hearing more stories as it relates to negotiating your income. The next portion I want to talk about is understanding your expenses. A lot of times clients and students and grown-ups, they have so much going on that they're constantly swiping or spending their cash, right? You want to make sure that you properly document your expenses. Why is that important? For example, students have expenses as well. You may be paying for your cell phone bill, or you may want to enroll in some form of subscriptions, or just engage in expenses that your parents may not want to pay for, right? So if you can understand your income and then back into what the expenses are, you have a clear picture as to how much you'll be able to save in our next session of the presentation. So let's look at the personal spending plan. There's the income, and then you see where the student has financial aid, total income being $1,525 per month. And if you notice, there are two buckets as it relates, or two categories as it relates to expenses. There's fixed expenses and variable expenses. Which expenses do you feel you can control, or for a fact are going to be the same? I'll let you guess. How many of you all picked fixed? How many of you all picked variable? Fixed is correct. Housing expenses such as mortgage or rent payments, car payments, car insurance, those are fixed costs. Those are costs that remain the same as long as nothing has changed, right? For example, if you have a car accident, insurance may go up. But for the most part, those costs are fixed. So it's easy to budget with fixed costs. Now let's move over to the right hand of the screen. Variable expenses. Electricity varies depending on how long you have lights on or you use certain utilities. Cell phone expenses may, fluctuate depending if you are managing your plan correctly. Gas may vary. Car maintenance may vary. Going to the store to buy groceries could vary. And so, as it relates to flexible expenses, you want to ensure that you manage to those line items such as cell phone, gas, and not be wasteful, right? You want to be able to manage those expenses to the best of your ability because you are already at risk of the fact that it fluctuates. So if you look at the bottom, it shows total income being $1,525 and total expenses being $1,525 means that your expenses washed with your income, leaving you with $0 at the end of the month. Now, question, was savings included into the budget? Absolutely, which is really important. And do you see where the savings is structured on the chart? Being number one in variable expenses. Why is that important? It's important because if you do not put yourself first, no one else will, right? And so you want to make sure that you put your line item for savings to be first and foremost. And the reason why I say that is after everything's paid for, it's really hard to go back and say, oh, I need to put $100 away a month or $30 a month. What I would advise you to do when it comes to saving is start off small. Don't be overly aggressive because it affects your heart and your feelings, right? Because if you aren't saving 100, you feel really bad. The fact that you set a goal for 100 and didn't reach it. So start small. Why do you save? I want you to think about it. When you're saving for a couple different reasons, correct? You're saving for any event of any emergency. You're saving for specific goals, whether it be long-term goals, mid goals, or short-term goals, right? You may be saving for an item, right? A purchase or a trip, depending on where you are in your life. I'll use this for an example. I use my daughter. My daughter saves every week at least $20 a week. Her goal was to make or at least have $1,000 saved by the end of the year. Now, you know that birthdays come up and Christmas comes up and different, events and special occasions that may come up for her, such as making straight A's on report cards. She has several different ways on generating income. My daughter reached her $1,000 goal last year because every opportunity she had to save, she was on a discipline program where when she made money, she took half of it and put it away. When she received her birthday gifts, in the form of cash, she put that in the bank too as well. So now I have 12-year-old with $1,000 saved. That's pretty impressive, right? Well, let's take it to myself when I was in high school. I turned 16 and my parents said, Sherell, what do you want for your birthday? I said, a job. Why did I say a job? I said a job because my parents pretty much only gave me what I needed and not all of what I wanted. So I had to take power into my own hands, right? So I started to work at Sonic at the age of 16. My goal was to save my check and spend the tips. And for those who may work at Sonic, understand that at least when I was working at Sonic, I was making $7.25 an hour, but I was making $40 a day in tips. Pretty good gig for a high school student, right? And I can tell you this, I wish I could show it to you. In 2 years, I saved $10,000. Each year I made $5,000 or so working at Sonic. Pretty impressive, right? Well, if I can do it and my daughter can do it, you can do it. We talked about paying yourself first. So once you start the process of putting money back and start small as far as those goals, you continue to increase your goals, your savings goals. So for example, when you get out into the workforce, they're going to give you a really nice salary, right? Your goal is to understand, I wasn't making this money in the first place, so I should put a budget in to save. And once you start saving money, little by little, bit by bit. We, your financial or math teacher can help you, or anyone that may have a financial calculator, we can show you what that money could represent if you were to invest that money. So I can use this for an example. I did a project while I was in college and was showing that I was going to be contributing $50 a month starting at the age of 20, 21 or so. $50 a month. And of course, I had a situation where I would have that money in an investment account, right? So maybe earning 6 to 10%. So if I started putting $50 a month at the age of 21, earning 6 to 10% or so, and you want to check your financial calculator, I was able to project that I would have well over $1 million by the time I retired. I think it was almost pushing 2 to 3 million. Unfortunately, I'm not able to share that on this screen. However, what I challenge you is to go back to your parents, go back to your math teacher and say, if I were to put $50 a month starting at the age of 18, what would I have saved by the time I'm 45 or 65? I challenge you to do that. The numbers are so impressive. The next slide I want to go to is, but I don't have extra money to save. What can I do to save? Well, a couple of things. Volunteering can be an opportunity because depending on how you engage with certain organizations, they may ask for you to be a part of their staff, right? Sometimes you have to give in order to receive. And so maybe volunteering to see if there's opportunities to transition into a role, or volunteering for your school, or your previous school once you retire. Once you graduate, that can be another opportunity too as well. But the main thing I can tell you is to be bold, ask. The least they can do is say no, right? So I wanted to transition to feel the power. Once you have established your tracking your expenses, understanding your income, and developing a budget, right? Now you're on the road of savings, taking a certain amount of money and putting it into a savings account. You should feel pretty impactful and pretty powerful. I must say, when I saved $10,000 by the age of 18, I felt like I was on top of the world. I couldn't tell you what student had that much money saved on their own, right? I challenge you to be able to do that. The next section I want to talk about is harnessing the power of credit. Once you are of age where you can leverage credit, it's important to understand the purpose of it. Because once you get in college, there are going to be so many creditors, credit card companies coming to you asking for you to get a credit card. So it's best that we give you a high level understanding of credit. When you leverage credit, and what that is basically instead of using your savings account to pay for something, is you actually going to the bank to obtain a credit card or a line of credit or a loan, okay? The reasons for credit is to either solve for emergencies, be able to make your banking more convenient, maybe purchase large purchases such as vehicles, and it's just really a major aspect of just responsibility as it relates to the consumer client. There are 4 C's when it comes to credit: capacity, capital, collateral, and character. As it relates to capacity speaks to your ability to make payments. Can you ask for credit if you don't have income? Probably not. Because if you aren't able to make the payments, the institution may not approve you for getting a loan. When it speaks to capital, it's the value of your assets. What is your net worth, right? How much money do you have in your checking account? Those are examples of understanding capital. When it comes to collateral basically means the property and assets used to secure a loan. If you go out to get an auto loan, a lot of times they are collateralizing your car. What that means is, Mr. Customer, if you don't pay this loan back, this auto loan back, we then have the right to repossess your vehicle. So it just strengthens the loan and strengthens the institution to believe that they have another source of repayment, which is your collateral. The same thing goes for a house. If you take out a mortgage, you're basically saying, Mr. Banker at Regions, I would like to take a mortgage out, but I will have my home as collateral. Okay? But you first have to have the capacity to make the payments, which means have a job, right? So understanding how it's done, it's really important to remain curious as it relates to energizing yourself financially. But it doesn't stop there. Not only are you curious, you have to also be very smart as it relates to protecting yourself from identity theft. And we can start that, and you can start that right now as a student. A lot of students have debit cards that have PIN numbers associated with it. A lot of students have online banking access with passwords associated with it. You all understand where I'm going, right? It is imperative not to share your PIN with anyone other than your parents or your passwords with anyone. Keeps everyone honest, right? It's really important not to share, because even if you may trust the other individual, we don't know if their computers or folks around them can protect you as good as you can, okay? So it's really important to keep all of your personal information to yourself. And try not to put your personal information on public computers, because you can't speak to the security on those systems or Wi-Fi. Okay. Also, be careful on who you give your Social Security information to. You want to always speak to your parents regarding your Social Security information, your bank account information. Speak to them before giving out any of that information over the phone or to anyone in person. Make sure that you are very careful as it relates to giving people your information via email. There are a lot of people that will assume that they know you. If you do not recognize the email address, do not, and I mean do not, respond back with pertinent information about you. Alrighty, well, that concludes my presentation. Hopefully you all found it to be very interesting. Again, today we spoke about managing a plan for your money. I encourage you to start saving. You all have time on your side, right? And then understanding how to leverage. Already start having those conversations and be curious about that. The most important, protect yourself. Do not give individuals that you do not know or you cannot validate to be a reliable source your information. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.